Welcome to Coach Eigner's Math. Today we'll be talking about area and perimeter of rhombi. So, looking at our rhombi, we know that the area of a rhombi, or area of a rhombus, which is one rhombi, is 1/2 diagonal times diagonal, or 1/2 D1, D2, diagonal 1 and diagonal 2. Notice they've listed out the different types of diagonals just for your benefit. They have labeled them so that we don't have issues mixing them up through the problem. Perimeter, just add up the four sides. So let's take a second, let's look down at example number 1. Diagonal 1, we're going to go ahead and call this diagonal here, which would be the 3 and 3, which is 6. Diagonal 2 would be this diagonal here, which would be 4 and 4, which is 8. So the area would be 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. Again, I write out the equation because I expect to see that equation written out for you as well. 0.5 times 6 times 8 is 24 units squared. And again, one more time, units is represented by U, and that could be anything from inches to centimeters to miles to feet, whatever it may be. So we always denote that there is a unit. We just don't know what it is on this particular problem. The next piece, need to know a side length. Now what we know about a rhombus is that all four sides are congruent, but we're missing the important piece. So just like we've been seeing a lot lately, we have a right triangle here where our edge would be C and I've got A and B. So I'd say 3 squared plus 4 squared equals C squared, which when you go through the work, it's going to be 25 equals C squared. Take the square root, 5 equals C. So I know that all four sides must be 5. So the side length is 5. And the perimeter in this case would be 4 times 5, or add 5 together 4 times. And you'd find that the perimeter is 20 units. Let's look down at example number 2. A rhombus has a diagonal of 10 and 20. So here we don't even need a picture right now. We know that a diagonal has diagonals of 10 and 20. So my formula is 1/2 D1 D2. Well, 1/2 10 times 20. Half of 10 is 5. 5 times 20 is 100. So my area must be 100 units squared. Notice they're squared because we talk about area in square units. We're talking about the squares that you could fit inside of your shape to fill it in. So now comes our picture, which I'm not going to draw the whole thing perfectly, but if I go ahead and sketch it out here, the important part is when I draw my diagonals, I know I have a 90-degree angle, and I know that this diagonal is 10, which would make this piece 5. This diagonal is 20, which would make this piece 10, and I'm again looking for the third side. 5 squared plus 10 squared equals x squared, or 125 equals x squared. Take the square root. So 125 splits up into 5 times 25 and 5 times 5. So I've got a pair of 5s. I can say that it is 5 radical 5 equals x. So each side would be 5 radical 5. Now the advantage to taking the time to write it like this, okay, where I take a pair of 5s and I put it on the outside and whatever's left goes on the inside. The advantage here is when I get to my perimeter, I have 4 of those. Well, it's real easy to say 4 times 5 is 20 times the radical 5. And my answer is real easy to see there, as I've just added those 4 sides together. And it's real clean for me to go ahead and be able to write that. Looking on at our next example here, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and give this a shot on your own. If you get stuck, start it up, give yourself a little bit of a hint. First diagonal, 24 and 24 gives me 48. Second diagonal, I do not know. The side length is going to be 25. Well, that makes my perimeter real easy. 25 times 4 is 100 units. So now the mystery today is going to be diagonal number 2, which, again, we have a right triangle. I can say a squared plus 24 squared equals 25 squared. We can say that 25 squared minus 24 squared is 49. So we can say that a squared equals 49. Take square root of both sides, a equals 7. Which makes this piece 7. So 7 and 7 makes my second diagonal 14. So the area, again, is going to be 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2, or 1/2 48 times 14. Notice if I'm taking time to write it down, I expect the same from you. 0.5 times 48 times 14 is 336. So I would say that my area here is 336 units squared. Looking down at number 4. Only giving you one number here. That shouldn't stop you from saying that that's also 3, so my first diagonal has to be 6. Now if you notice, this is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. I'm going to go ahead and redraw it down here for you. Well, if we know that this is 3, that's x. So 2x would be 6. So my side length would be 6, which allows me to go ahead and know my perimeter has to be 6 times 4, which is 24 units. And then my third piece is x radical 3, or in this case 3 radical 3. So 3 radical 3, 3 radical 3 would make that diagonal 6 radical 3. So my area formula hasn't changed much. It is 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. Half of 6 is 3. 3 times 6 is 18 radical 3, which is our area, units squared. Now from here, it would be very easy for me to type it in the calculator and say 18 radical 3 and say, well, that's 31.177 units squared. But it's really hard to get from the 31.177 back to this 18 radical 3, which is why I'm asking you to leave it this way today. Please do your best. A rhombus has an area of 44 square centimeters, excuse me. If the length of one diagonal is 11, find the length of the other. Well, the area formula, area equals 1/2 d1 times d2. Well, it's easy to say the area is 44 because they told us that. 1/2 is 1/2. d1 is 11. So I'm looking for d2. Well, in this case, if I look at it, I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 and say 88 equals 11 d2, because the 1/2 and the 2 cancel. So now I got to divide by 11 on both sides, and I would say that 8 equals d2. And that right there would be my answer. All I had to do was work backwards and solve for x. Easy to do when I know my formula and they give me all but one piece. This has been Coach Eichner's Math. I appreciate you watching and hope you have a great rest of your day.